Okay, I'm sorry about that. Continuing with the Hinduism, the idea of the 4 stages. In the student stage, usually this is preteen. You're studying. You may study within a teacher, the Vedas. The second stage, the householder. This is the idea of living that stage of having a family and living a high spiritual, ethical life while being a husband and father. The forest dweller, you've met all your obligations and you're now ready to leave all personal attachments and spend the rest of your life studying and meditation. And then the ascetic, which is optional, when you renounce the world and independent of all people and possessions, unite with Brahman. And I guess you think, kind of reminds me of the idea of monks at that point. So notions about death, they believe the soul is immortal, they believe in reincarnation, and part of karma is kind of the idea, I guess, of if you lived a good life, you'll come back as something better. They learn not to feel dread or grieve over it because of living forever. Your soul never dies, you just go into another being. So interesting. And then we get to Buddhism is next. And I think of Buddhism, Hinduism kind of the same as far as very personal, spiritual type thing. The idea of Buddhism. I'm sorry, why is this so confusing? 4 stages, notions about death, origins, core assumptions, 4 noble truths. And Buddhism, okay, the use of silence. The person who has epitomized the human situation. There is an Indian prince, Siddhartha Gautama. He's known as the Enlightened One. He died at 80 years of age in 483 BCE, traveled through the Ganges Valley, sharing his insights with anyone who would listen. So kind of idea of missionary type work. Buddha is not a god, but a man. All individuals have the potential to seek truth on their own. They have 4 noble truths. And it's life is suffering. And if you think about it, it's not meant to be a negative way, but the idea that we bring it on our own. We have craving, self-desire, attachment, anger, greed, ignorance, self-delusion. And because of suffering, it does have a cause. It can be eliminated. And the remedy is through this 8-fold plan. So we have the idea of wisdom. Understanding the world, accepting reality, understanding where suffering comes from, and that helps lead to stopping the suffering. The right purpose is being free from ill will, cruelty, and untruthfulness toward the self and others. Ethical conduct, having the right speech, right action, right livelihood, I think idea of not causing harm to anyone. Mental discipline, we have the idea of right efforts, having the right motivations, I guess. Right mindfulness, thinking about what we're doing, our mind, and right concentration, dwelling on things that are good and not harmful. And then there's, oh, that's not 8, all right. The cultural expressions, we have the use of silence. Oh, I see, they're mixed in, I'm sorry. So then we have the idea of silence, cultural expressions. They do believe in silence, impermanency, the idea that nothing lasts forever, and again, the idea of karma, that, you know, doing good or bad is going to get you the consequences accordingly. Their notions about death. A lot of their teaching focuses on death. It's inevitable. They also believe in the idea of being reborn. Past karma is rebirth itself. A person's past deeds plays a role in how many times. So where Hinduism talk about the soul never dies, here, depending on how you play in the past, depends how many times you'll be reborn. Once there's a good enough karma, you will experience nirvana, which is the idea that perfect after-death life. And then we get to Confucianism. Here there's no formal priesthood, no congregational life. Confucius, again, is a man, just as in Buddhism. born in 551 BCE. He taught, came out of his observations about human conditions in China during his lifetime. So just watching, observing what he saw, he came up with some beliefs, and that's what he taught. The government must be founded on virtue. That can relate now, huh? All citizens must be attentive to the duties of their position. And then 3,000 people came to study under him, and over 70 became well-established scholars. So that's interesting. Some core beliefs that people are basically good and they just have to learn. And it'd be nice, yeah, I think mostly people are really good, but education can help a common man become superior. There's a deep commitment to social harmony. Again, the idea of being peaceful. You honor the upper members, son and father, minister and ruler, wife and husband. So the idea of there being authority in the way. Their sacred writings is the Analects, which are sayings. Some of their cultural expressions, the idea of Chen, which goes with humanism, Li, which has the idea of rituals, rites, proprieties, conventions, things that you would do, Te, the power, so using it for the betterment of others instead of getting your own. And then Wen has to do with the arts and the idea of appreciating beauty and music, arts, and such. With Confucianism and communication, teaches empathy, the idea of, and remember, sympathy is feeling bad for someone. Empathy, you can actually feel their pain. Being aware of status and the role relationships. Being aware of social etiquette, so the idea of here acting proper to others, and the idea of indirect language, which I think would go the idea of, you know, being mindful how you say things so that you're not causing shame or something for others, letting them have honor. Notions about death, they're not interested in death or afterlife. You strive to live the best possible life while you're here on earth. Don't worry about the afterlife. To engage, and Confucius urged his followers to engage in formal practices, going from funerals to the building of small family shrines to honor the dead. And I think there the idea of dealing with the dead is more about comforting the ones who are left behind, that, you know, once you're dead, that's final. So in summary, worldview is a culture's orientation toward the idea of God, humanity, nature, the universe, life, death, sickness, other philosophical issues concerning existence. It's communicated in a variety of ways. We do see that religion sometimes is a predominant element from which one's worldview is derived. So, and ideally, most of these religions do really, I think almost all religions really do focus the idea of putting others first, being mindful, being kind, looking out, helping the poor. So if people would really kind of work that way, it would be nice, but unfortunately, people are individuals, and so that doesn't always. So in general, most people, this is how they should behave, but you always have people who don't quite follow. Although all religions have their unique features, there are many similarities, as I mentioned. These are the ideas of the meaning of life. They all have most of them have some kind of sacred writing, or at least some oral traditions. They have rituals, they have ethics. The biggest thing is the ethics. The 6 most prominent traditions, as we discussed, were Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism, but there are many others out there. We have Wiccan, pagan, all these other things out there too. So these traditions give the people in the culture advice how to live life, and they offer explanations about death. And keep in mind that some of these religions, it's a bigger part of the culture than others. The United States was founded on principles of Christianity, the idea of religious freedom, but now when we talk about the freedom of religion, we talk about being able to practice any religion that we believe in, be it atheist or spirituality or some actual faith system. And sometimes I think people forget that. But that will have a big part in how people communicate, obviously. So that is covering that chapter, and I'm sorry if it seems rambling. I appreciate you hanging in there, and I apologize for the 2 different videos. I accidentally hit stop instead of pause in the first one. So I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday night, inshallah, as my Islam faith would say, God willing. and the creek don't rise, as I heard one of my professors say. And I hope you're all being safe, warm. Please respond to your, I can't remember if I have a discussion board, but just look in hybrid folder 2. Make sure you do the quiz for chapter 3, which is quite an interesting chapter as well. Very important in understanding this intercultural communication. I did actually read through it. I spent most of the day reading through the chapters, but a lot of this is covering different cultures, how they deal with the elderly, how they deal with children, the idea of individualism versus culturalism, looks at various groups, Latino, Arab, Indian. So definitely a lot to learn out of that chapter. So I hope you enjoy it. I wish we could talk more about it in class. I wish we had more time to actually discuss all these chapters. We have quite a diverse class. Reading your posts and seeing all the different intercultural experiences you've all experienced, I think we're going to have a really rich class. And I look forward to actually having you talking instead of just me in this video. Have a good one. Take care. Be safe and warm.